Get ready for the big revival. The real estate revival, that is. Now on 77 WABC, your New York weekend.
Get ready for the big revival.
It's Rand on Real Estate with Greg Rand.
Welcome to the Big Real Estate Revival. This is Greg Rand, your host on 77 WABC and WABCRadio.com. We are excited to be here for the first Rand on Real Estate show of the big 2012 year. I'm here with Laura Smith, my producer. How are you?
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Great to be here. All right, so if you're a fan of this show, you know that we're all about entrepreneurship. During the Great Recession, we're all about helping you bulletproof your plans about how to build wealth in American real estate. We're all about pushing back against all the negativity that's out there, and we're all about taking your calls. So get online, give us a ring, 800-848-WABC. That's 800-848-9222, and ask me anything you want about real estate, any place in the country that you want. I love analyzing markets that are outside the New York area because I can do that and because it's fun, and I think it's teachable. We're going to talk about some of the new government interventions that are coming our way in the housing market, and I'll tell you why they make me nervous. And we're going to be talking about, let's see, we're going to start with my favorite segment and Laura's favorite segment, which is called Smart People Saying Dopey Things About Real Estate. And you know what? It happens every week. There's a lot of smart people saying a lot of dopey things, and there's a new round of media coverage out there that I want to bring to your attention because maybe you heard it, maybe it's affecting you, maybe you believe it, and I want to show you why I think it's wrong. And it comes from some recent studies that were done that highlighted the fact that home ownership rates are coming down. All right, they peaked up at about 69% of all U.S. households were homeowners at the very peak, and now it's down to something around 65%, which is actually historically still pretty normal. And we know the reasons for this. Okay, we know why how home ownership rates spiked. It had everything to do with the fact that lenders, starting with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, giving people no money down financing at whatever levels they wanted, and so that gave people fake blank checks in their pocket. We call it Fannie money. Funny money, get it, right? So Fannie money driving prices up. People get into homes. They end up losing value. People are now getting out of those homes through either foreclosures or short sales, or people who want to buy a house just can't because the lending standards are too tight. All very explainable, all very temporary, but the result is a lot of new renters out there, which is great for investors. And normally you'd expect that a guy who's all about real estate investing would tell you how this is wonderful, because it is great for investors as rental rates get driven up and as new rental household demand skyrockets. But once again, the smart people out there are reading this trend in a short-term context, and they're now saying that, there was a headline that I saw recently, the American dream of owning a home? No, Mom and Dad, that was your dream, all right? And it was about how people in the Generation Y, the Echo Boomers, people in their 20s, no longer want to own homes. And so they read this decline of home ownership as something that's much more consequential, much more sort of central to the attitudes of people in this country now, that they've lost faith. They don't want to own a home. They want to be more mobile. And it's coming out in a lot of places. We have an audio clip here that I want to play you of Susie Orman. You guys know Susie Orman. She's the guru-ess of cut up your credit cards, live within your means. She has a new book that she's out promoting. And she's smart, but not about real estate. And so she said something. She's out there all over the press right now making the following statements. Let's go ahead and play that clip.
Here's the thing. Starting in 2008, America did change. Mm-hmm. America has gone from a country where your desire to own a home has now gone to a country whose desire to get out of the home that you own and rent an apartment is more prevalent than ever before.
Okay. So the numbers don't agree with Susie, okay? Susie's world are people that are in over their heads, and I understand that. She seems like a very nice person, by the way, a very caring person, and a very smart person, just not about this subject. You know, we coined the phrase, Laura, smart, what did we coin it? It was housing expertitis. Mm-hmm. A lot of people out there are armchair housing experts. They live in a house, so they think they know about the housing market, and usually they make the same mistake, and that is they look at things too short term. So what Susie is saying is making the statement that what used to be a desire among everybody to own a home, now everybody wants to rent. And the numbers, we're all focused over the last couple of years on people that did housing wrong, okay? bought with no money down, bought at the peak, lost value in the property, couldn't afford the mortgage, whatever. They made a mistake. They wanted to get out of the home, okay? That's still a very, very small minority of all the households out there, okay? There are, for example, many, many, many times more people that have houses that are paid off than there are people that are in foreclosure, okay? Many times. You never hear about those people any place except for Randon Real Estate, right? You never hear Susie talking about all the people that have their homes paid off. And so she and a lot of these other writers are looking at this now as this is a new attitudinal change across America where people don't want to own, they want to rent. And again, you'd think this is a good thing for if you're a landlord, if you're an investor, and it is. But I just want to correct the record. I mean, we don't see any evidence that people don't want to own homes. You go out and do a survey of people in their 20s, and they say things like, no, Dad, home ownership is your dream. But I actually had a conversation with one of the senior entrepreneurs in the real estate business, a guy named Dave Liniger. We're going to be interviewing him for next month's show, actually. He's the founder and chairman of RE/MAX Real Estate. So they're the biggest real estate company in the country. And he's the original founder from 40 years ago, still the chairman of the company. Really interesting guy, great sense of humor. And I asked him about this, and what he said was funny. He said, you can't ask somebody in their 20s what they're going to be thinking when they're in their 30s, right? Ask a 20-year-old who doesn't have any kids, who isn't married. Their motivation of where they want to live is can they walk to the bars and can they crawl home?
Yeah.
I mean, their motivations are totally different. And he makes a really good point. So, whenever you see people talking about this younger generation, it's usually people from an older generation who are writing about what the younger generation wants. And they always have they always cast the younger generation as being kind of smarmy. Like, if you don't text me, I don't want to talk to you. Like, I want to communicate with you the way I want to communicate. And the truth is, you know what? If you're applying for a job, you better communicate the way the person who's giving you the job, who's probably older than you, wants to communicate. But the point is, I mean, you think about when you're 20. When you call here, whatever you're calling about, I want to ask you about something that you thought was important when you were 20 years old that you realized by the time you were 35 or 40, you were off base. For example, what popped into my head was when I was 20, Laura, I was this close. My fingers are a half inch apart. I was this close to getting a tattoo of a Roadrunner on my arm. A Roadrunner.
Nice.
Okay? And the reason was I was a huge fan of the Plymouth Roadrunner, a really cool muscle car from the late 1960s. And I was sure that there was no chance that I would ever not be in love with Roadrunners. Thanks for the sound effect there. Yeah, so I didn't get it because my parents told me don't bother coming home if you do. And, of course, 15 years later, I'm really happy. I'm not 35 now, but by the time I was 35, I was real happy that I didn't have a Roadrunner on my arm. I kind of got into Porsches and Mercedes at that point. I'm back to the old Plymouths now again, but
what did you get? Did you ever get a tattoo?
I never got a tattoo.
Okay.
And I kind of missed my window, I think, now. It's a little bit too I'm past my prime when it comes to that. But that's just an illustration, okay? So don't believe it, okay? Don't let people get headlines and impact your understanding. I think your gut probably tells you that nothing's really changed from the standpoint of people wanting to own homes. Maybe they're more realistic about what they can afford. Maybe they're more nervous about taking the plunge. And all those things make sense. I think people are definitely different today than they were 5 years ago in terms of, ostentatious living was very in during the roaring 2000s. Austere living is very in now. But have faith, all right? The housing market is recovering. It's recovering slowly. It's going to recover. And we'll talk in the next market as to whether or not, the next segment as to whether the government's helping or hurting that. And we'll take your call. So don't forget to give us a ring, 800-848-9222. I'm Greg Rand. This is Rand on Real Estate. Stay with us.